Krishna Krishna. I can sit up also. Everyone can sit up. जो देर से आएंगे नीचे लगाया आप नीचे कर सकते हैं। मैं वही देख रहा था इतना रेट है तो नीचे मतलब फोर बुक सबको देना है। फोर क्वेश्चन आंसर बुक्स यस दे दो दे दो दे दो। ख्याति आ गया किचन में रहिए यहाँ कहाँ जाएगी। पर लगाने का सोच रही थी। हाँ ये लोग जगह ना बैठेंगे तो नहीं ये लोग हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे राम। उसका वेट करते हैं आ जाए ख्याति वापस आ जाए तो वेट करते हैं। राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण पेज 75 करेंगे। ऑलमोस्ट 2 मंथ्स के बाद हम लोग मिल रहे हैं नहीं। ज्यादा हो गया टू मच टू मच सेपरेशन। What is the next question to you? हितेश अनंगा भी आई है क्या। कृष्णि को मान आए हो। अरे नाइस कृष्णि अपने फ्रेंड के साथ। हाँ हाँ एक कीर्तन और कर दो थोड़ा हरे कृष्ण मंत्र और कर सकते हैं। हाँ 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 हाँ। हरे कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे राम। हाँ बिल्कुल बिल्कुल। विष्णु पदारा कृष्ण कृष्णाय श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण कृष्णाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी आचार्यदिशकारिणे नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी आचार्यदिशकारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तजन प्रभु नित्यानंद अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare
Mic से होगा माइक्रोफोन चाहिए माइक
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna
माता जी का वो
उतना पसंद नहीं इतना चाहिए
Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna.
लो पहले तो तुम दोनों पहले शुरू करेंगे फिर हम वाले सुन लेंगे इंटरनेट
क्या कर रहे हो तो चलाओ
नहीं नहीं कि जब तुम लोग पहले से तुम यहाँ पे भी सही होगा
भाई करो कौन पकड़
Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha, Madan Mohan Radha, Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha, Madan Mohan Radha. Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha, Madan Mohan Sri Radhe. Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha, Madan Mohan Sri Radhe. Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Shri Jagannath ki jai, ki jai, Ram
Hey, Jai. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you so much for joining us today here on Saturday to continue our discussions after a gap of almost 2 months. And I can tell you that I have been missing all these sanghas so badly. I was really looking forward to when this one is going to be scheduled. So thank you. Volume come karna hai?
Volume कम है.
Come hai volume. Can somebody adjust the volume?
थोड़ा सा फास्ट करना
Fast karna.
है.
Is it better? Okay. Thank you. So, मुझको जोर से लग रहा है. हाँ, मुझे ठीक है. इतना ज़्यादा ऊंचा नहीं लग रहा. ठीक है. So thank you so much for organizing this, and a big thank you from the bottom of my heart to Niral Prabhu and Khyati Mataji and Keshri for opening their home and their hearts for us to do Krishna Katha here and continue on our reading session from the book, which is called, what's the name of the book? Take the microphone and tell me.
We don't need this now.
I don't need it right now. Yeah, you can switch it off. I have the 4 questions asked on Kindle if you want. I don't think so because everybody has a book. Right? Right? You don't know. I'm doing it online also. Yeah. Might be too much right now, right? Okay, I can do that. So how many questions did we cover till now? And what are the 2 questions? That was the next obvious question.
What is the point?
Huh? Good. How may I be of service? That's a good one. That was the first or second?
Second.
And what was the first one?
Purpose of life.
Purpose of life. What is my purpose? Any day, if you want to see what the 4 questions are, there at the back of it here. Okay, so I'm just for those of you who are watching us on Hare Krishna, single. Those of us who are watching us here on Facebook.
Online जो है उनके साथ आप screen share करोगे.
अरे, I'm doing that.
Then we can share the link screen here also. Right?
You want to share it?
Yeah, can
Take
you
it
share
up.
the
Yeah. Hey, good to see you. Yes, I am.
Yeah, then you can share.
You want to share my screen? Do you want to join my Zoom? ठीक है, ठीक है. वही Zoom है, standard Zoom I'm using. Can do that. And I'm sharing my screen here. We get started momentarily. So we will start reading as usual, a paragraph each, starting from this side with Radhi. We'll just wait for you. So page number 75. Question 3, Khyati Mataji.
Should I start from me?
Yeah, you start. You start, yeah.
Question 3. What is the lesson? The world often moves in a way contrary to our plans. We may have an idea of how things should go. We may even do everything required to make them happen. Still, we meet with the reversals. When things go wrong, rather than ask why me and dig oneself into the ever deepening hole, we can instead ask our question, what is the lesson?
अरे बंद करना लेकिन फिर वो प्रॉब्लम एक सेकंड हाँ बंद नहीं कर रहे अब छोड़ो कोई दिक्कत नहीं यार इसको निकाल कर बैठ ध्यान रखो
Pick up the text. Yeah, थोड़ी आवाज में
विकास से पिकअप कर
अब नहीं करना.
It may not be easy. Your mind may block as asking this question and default to the easier role of being a victim and question and becoming more to consistently what is the lesson requires this diligence and
Perspective.
attitude. We humans are designed to learn from experience, so it is not only possible but natural. What more, the search for lessons bring meaning to life. We come to see how so-called reversals to fortune, even calamity, and be blessings in disguise.
By asking this third question and looking for the lesson, you can rewrite your mind's tendency to take false shelter of victimhood and instead transform the experience into an opportunity for learning. Hare Krishna.
Your attitude determines your altitude. Austrian neurologist, psychologist, philosopher, and author Viktor Frankl, who was imprisoned in concentration camps and whose wife and family were killed by the Nazis, wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of human freedom, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. That what an uplifting approach of life." I'm
I had similar approach. Bhakti Tirtha Swami was a vibrant and charismatic monk, teacher and leader who spent decades traveling the world and touching countless lives with his words and example. In 2004, he was diagnosed with an acute form of melanoma cancer, and despite all efforts, his condition soon worsened. In his final days, his body was ravaged. He had a broken collarbone, pervasive tumors, and his leg had to be amputated. He was so weak he couldn't even turn over in his bed without help. But despite these dire conditions, he sought the lessons to be learned from his experience and grew. Sharing profound realizations from his bed, he gave inspirational classes to thousands, and at the peak of his illness, Just before passing away, he spoke this prayer.
I can understand, dear Lord, that you have blessed me so much by giving me some tangible experiences of illness and helping me transcend my bodily consciousness. Because I am now submerged in bodily suffering, I can better perceive the ultimate tricks of my false ego. I can even understand the nature of my stagnations much better. I beg you, dear Lord, even if it means increasingly my bodily discomfort, please do whatever it's necessary to help me become a better servant of you and your servant.
Bhakti Swami left his body in 2005, but even in his excruciatingly painful physical condition, in his final moments, he remained in a state of bliss. Because of his impeccable attitude, he not only rose above his bodily pains, but was also able to take and give lessons from his experience. Attitude is defined as a settled way of thinking or feeling about someone or something, typically one that is reflected in a person's behavior. In short, our attitude leads to our behavior. People who learn to adjust their attitudes rise above whatever obstacles might seem to be in their way and often surpass whatever goals that they have imagined. Baseball pitcher Jim Abbott was born on only one hand. As a boy, he was rejected by coaches who didn't think he could play. When he complained to his father, however, his father replied that the reason why he wasn't accepted by coaches wasn't because of his physique, it was because he wasn't good enough at baseball. In response, Abbott figured out how to maneuver his glove so that he could both pitch and field the ball. He practiced until he got good enough to make a team. In college, he was named the nation's best
Amateur. Amateur athlete.
nation's best amateur athlete. As a major league professional, he threw a no-hitter for the New York Yankees and went on to have a successful career as a motivational speaker.
The world is a classroom. Classrooms are places dedicated to learning. Students learn and engage in discussion to learn a skill or subject. After leaving the classroom, they put their knowledge to practical use. They can be perpetual students, as life is our teacher. Every circumstance is an opportunity to learn. When we ask, what is a lesson? The universe becomes our schoolhouse. Whoever passes the test reaches their highest potential, even or especially in adversity. And upon graduation, we can reach our ultimate destination. Unbounded happiness due to our being situated in pure spiritual consciousness.
We hear from the sage Sukadev that the purpose of human life is to learn how to remember the Supreme at the time of death, which can come at any moment. He recommends that we use every situation we encounter to practice. We should be so practiced in remembering the Supreme that we naturally do it all the time, regardless of whether things go right or wrong.
Our present life is not our ultimate destination. It is a stopover. While here, we are meant to develop impeccable qualities. The Bhagavad Gita 16.1 to 3 lists some of them: fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self control, performance of sacrifice, search for wisdom, simplicity, non violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, tranquility, aversion to fault finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy, and from the passion for honor. Yes. These transcendence.
Second, these transcend.
Hare Krishna. These transcendental qualities, Krishna tells Arjuna, are indications of a divine nature. When we took lessons in both our struggles and victories, we awaken these qualities, which are eternally present within us. These divine qualities are prerequisites for an intimate relationship with the Supreme and resultantly eternal happiness. Srimad Bhagavatam teaches that by taking the world as a classroom, we develop the intelligence to learn lessons from all our interactions. An intelligent person, expert in perceiving the world around him and in applying sound logic, can achieve real benefit through his own intelligence. Thus, sometimes one acts as one's own instructing spiritual master.
The classroom of relationship. There are several different classrooms in the cosmic schoolhouse. In the classroom of relationships, we learn that your mate is your mirror. That is, those closest to us often given us feedback that no one else is willing to give. People have difficulty cooperating because each of us has a unique way of seeing the world. To succeed while living and working with others, then we must be able to tolerate differences of ideas and ways of doing things until we find a way of harmonize them. Then cooperation is possible. Therefore, for the sake of cooperation, it's best to avoid ultimatums. The mind tends to say, if I can't have it my way, I quit. But to consider others' preferences alongside one's own is an enlightened state that yields progress.
Relationships thrive or fail based on the attention we give them. Give someone your full attention and see what happens. They are likely to notice, since most people at best give only divided attention to others. Spoiled persons think of only their needs, make ultimatums, and are stingy about giving others attention. A student in classroom of relationship learns the invaluable lesson that giving goes a long way and also feels better than receiving. Didn't our mothers teach us that it is better to give than to receive? The classroom of sacrifice. In the classroom of sacrifice, students learn that they are dependent on higher forces to survive, let alone fulfill their desires. To think that one deserves something for nothing is delusional. We a price for everything, and nothing good comes without sacrifice. Krishna confirms this in the Gita, 4th chapter 31 shloka. Without sacrifice, one can never live happily in this life or on this planet. What then of the next? To make progress, one must learn to sacrifice. The word sacrifice derived from the Latin uh, sacrifice, which means the act of giving up one thing for another. Sacrifice also means to make okay. Sacrifice. The lesson we learn in the classroom of sacrifice is that by giving, we grow. And when we give to the Supreme, our lives become
sacred.
The classroom of surveys. Toddlers are by nature self-centered and think only of their own needs. But as they grow and develop, they learn the value of sharing. In The Way Children Are, the Center for Parenting Education describes how children develop empathy gradually over time. While it may be frustrating to have children who appear to be self-centered, unrelenting, and impulsive, it can be comforting to learn that these traits are typical of the development of all children. It is only over time that children gradually learn that they are not the center of the universe and that other people exist who have feelings and needs that are not necessarily the same as their own, that they can sometimes have to wait for getting or doing what they want, that they can gain improved judgment as a result of life experiences.
Oh, look, she shared a toy. A parent might react saying their child maturing. She's growing up. Adolescents often volunteer for a cause they believe in, another sign that they are thinking of the need of others. First, they share with family, then with people of their town, then with others around the world. Then they may consider what is best thing I can do for people everywhere. And finally, they may realize how, by serving the Supreme, all living entities within the universe are served. In the teachings of Bhakti, the definition of successful human life is that one develops the mindset to do a good for all living entities. That mindset is developed in the classroom of service. The classroom of tolerance. In the Gita, Krishna emphasizes the importance of tolerance, and Chaitanya teaches one should be more tolerant than the tree, which endures the weather and seasons. One must tolerate inconveniences and other people's minor offenses. Have you ever been insulted, overreacted, and then wished you hadn't? Before email, people wrote letters on paper and mailed them. I once wrote a letter of complaint to a friend who had given me something and then later taken it back. He claimed that it had been a loan, but I remembered that it was a gift. Luckily, before I mailed the letter, I read it to a mutual friend, and they advised me, don't send that letter. It's not worth degrading your relationship. I thought about it and then threw the letter in the recycling bin. Had it been an email instead of a letter, I might have clicked on the send button and ruined a long-term friendship.
A moment of intolerance can ruin one life. A moment of tolerance can change our perspective on life. My friend Raj, who does conflict resolution for a living, taught me that there is an inverse relationship between emotion and rational thought. When you are angry, you don't think clearly. The angrier, sadder, or more attached you are, the more your power of discretion decreases.
When my wife and I first moved to the Bay Area, there was an incident of road rage near our home. A man on the motorcycle got into a dispute with a man driving a pickup truck. And as they were driving, calling each other names, the pickup driver jerked the steering wheel of his truck in the direction of the motorcyclist. The motorcyclist stumbled off his bike and died. The otherwise law-abiding cab driver, a family man with two kids and good job, ruined his life as well as the lives of both his and the motorcyclist families. He also affected the lives of the highway patrol, medics, insurance agents, and the witnesses. Had he tolerated a minor insult, his life would have been very different, and the motorcyclist would have still been alive. When we practice tolerance, we gain the insight of seeing what might have happened but did not. The more such insight expands in us, the wiser and more tolerant we become. Just because things are out of our control doesn't mean they are out of control. Let's say you are at home and your car is parked outside. It's brand new and you don't yet have insurance. Suddenly you hear tires screeching outside. A car
carrying me around the corner. Then you hear a crash. You are sure it was your car that was hit, and you feel anxiety and experience physical symptoms, trembling, increased heart rate, perspiration, shortness of breath. You, when you finally come back to your senses and look outside, it turns out that it wasn't your car after all. It was your neighbor's. How do you feel now? Relieved, of course, but also sympathetic towards your neighbors.
Let's say the neighbors feel devastated when they see the state of their car and they turn to a friend for the friend offers philosophy to help them adjust their attitude. It's just a car, at least no people were hurt, or something like that. That's the purpose of philosophy, to objectify and then shift our perspective.
When we change our perspective, our attitude naturally shifts. It's easy to see that there's a difference between a car and my car. There are a lot of cars driving around, but they're not my cars, so I'm not concerned about them. When I think about my car, however, I care about it. I even identify with it, and it becomes a part of me. For example, if someone hits my car, I might say, "You hit me."
When we become blindly attached to things, we not only suffer, we also miss the lesson. The incident, the ancient bhakti teaches, the ancient bhakti teachings say that those with an enlightened attitude learn to be objective and extract the lesson from what happening around them. What to speak of not lamenting for a card. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna advised Arjuna not to lament for his body or for those of his relatives. He says that when we misidentify the body to be ourselves and the things around us to be part of us, we suffer. Our bodies are like our garments, just as we change garments at the end of the day. As non-material living entities, we change bodies at the end of this life.
In life, we often get the opposite of what we expect or plan for. When something goes quickly against our plans or expectations, we call it a disaster. But just because things are out of our control doesn't mean they are out of control. According to Sri Upanishad, the universe and everything in it is Purnam, perfectly aligned. The way to align oneself with this universal order, despite all of life's apparent reversals, is to keep asking, what is the lesson?
Questions: why me? Why do I deserve this? And why not somebody else? Compete with what is the lesson? These competing questions lead us into thinking we are victims. In this way, we blame others as the cause of our woes and miss the lessons we are meant to learn. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that the material realm is a place of miseries. He points out that in the material world, difficulties come to everyone, and that we must therefore learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. As the saying goes, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. The word suffer comes from the root to carry. In other words, it is our choice whether or not to be carried away by the results of what happens to us in this material world, whether it be happiness or distress.
Getting off the victim wagon. When we feel victimized, the pain can be severe. Thus, the Bhakti teachings are recognize that even as we search for the lesson or help others to do so, we may feel the pain of reversal or abuse. While speaking the lesson, therefore, we must also be compassionate both to ourselves and to others who who are suffering. Even though I am not my material body, when my fingers is cut, it bleeds and hurts. When we are mistreated, we feel like pain of abuse. Looking for the lesson in what happens to us doesn't guarantee that we won't feel hurt. That's why wise people take time to solace themselves and others who feel the pain that comes from the abuse, even as they ask the question, what's the lesson?
Maintaining a victim consciousness, however, saps our energy, is self destructive, and debilitates our relationship. In a 2020 article in Scientific American, cognitive scientist Scott Barry Kaufman writes, those who have a perpetual victimhood mindset tend to have an external locus of control. They believe that one's life is entirely under control of forces outside of oneself. Kaufman's clinical research shows that one's mindset determines how one perceives the world. Those who compulsively identify as victims interpret life's event as assaults rather than rather than as lessons and lose their ability to forgive. The sense of victimhood distorts their perspective and stifles their self-improvement. Again, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional.
The antidote is to replace why with what is the lesson. Doing so lead us first to self-realization, then to awareness of the benevolent higher force that is ready and willing to help, and finally to the personal hand of the divine, who reveals the value lesson we are meant to learn.
Dear learner, this universe is designed for learning, not comfort. We are subtle spiritual beings ensconced,
Ensconced.
ensconced in a material world with which we are incompatible. As oil and water never mix, similarly, we never mix with the gross world of matter. The material world is inconvenient. If we try to live a life of convenience, we'll be disappointed. If, however, if we view the incidents in our lives, including the inconvenient ones, as opportunities to learn and to refine ourselves, we will experience the accelerations of progress. To those engaged in such a noble practice, Krishna says, never fear. Those who strive in this way, even imperfectly, will never be touched by misfortune. Bhagavad Gita 6.40, paraphrased.
Once there was a king named Akbar who was always accompanied by his expert and trusted chief of staff, Birbal. The king relied on Birbal's advice and depended on him to manage his affairs. One day, when Akbar was practicing martial arts with his sword, he accidentally cut off the tip of his little finger of his left hand. In pain, he inquired from Birbal, why has this happened to me? Birbal replied, it is divine arrangement. When the king heard Birbal's reply, he became angry and demanded that recant his statement. I am the king, he stormed. How can such pain and suffering be divinely arranged? But Birbal held to his position, and the king, feeling insulted, ordered him put under house arrest so that he might reconsider his opinion. Birbal did not protest and said, this too is divine arrangement.
A month later, the king went on an excursion into the wilderness. but because Birbal was under arrest, he could not accompany him, as he usually did on such outings. When Akbar was deep in the forest, he was captured by a tribe of Tantric, ill-advised demented people who perform human sacrifice thinking that the act will bring it them wealth and power. As the Tantrics prepared him for sacrifice, they released him, having merely because they noticed that he was missing the tip of his little finger. So they needed a complete human for a fruitful sacrifice. They released him. Having narrowly escaped death, the king rode his horse toward the palace, but all the while he thought about fearful, the king's accidental cutting off his finger to be denied, and now he could see that Beerful was correct.
When he reached his kingdom, the Akbar called for Birbal to be released and brought to him. When Birbal arrived, the king embraced him and told him the story of his capture and subsequent release. Now I can understand how it was by divine arrangement that I cut my finger, he admitted. But one thought lingered in his mind. When he put you under house arrest, I said to Bilbo, you didn't complain. And you claimed that your arrest was also by divine arrangement. I can now understand how many situations was divinely arranged, but what about yours? You have been languishing in captivity but because of my hot-headed decisions. Please.
Please consider, sir. Birbal replied, if I had accompanied you on a latest excursion, as I usually did, the tantric would have sacrificed me since my body is complete. Therefore, now we can both see that your arresting me was also divinely arranged.
Like people, those who look for the lesson in whatever happens to them will see how everything and everyone is interconnected. Instead of asking, why me? Why am the victim? Ask, what is the lesson? When you engage in this practice, you will find that your intelligence will be divinely empowered to find lessons in life's events. With a question ready on your tongue, you will climb steadily towards the high ground of self-realization, integrity, and spiritual self-esteem. Notice for yourself how simply asking, what is the lesson, expands your consciousness. Those armed with the intention to learn and to refine themselves are ready to become master askers.
The Gita and other wisdom texts explain that our present life is but one in a series of lives. Each life is like a frame in a roll of cinematic film. For each of our actions, we receive a perfectly measured reaction. Whatever our present situation may be, it is the fruit of our cumulative activities from many lives. Whatever happens to us is not arbitrary, but it is a perfectly measured response to what we have already done.
When we blame God, the universe, or any entity outside ourselves, we miss the opportunity to learn and grow. When we accept the responsibility of looking for the lesson, we develop the insight and internal strength needed to embrace whatever happens to us as not only a divine intervention, but also a custom designed arrangement to help us advance. We can be victims or learners, but not both. We are all students, and the universe is our schoolhouse. Whatever comes our way is therapy or cosmic sensitivity training. Those who collect and apply the lessons learn to transcend all troubles and become tranquil and wise. Eligibility for elevation. The quintessential practice for those who seek spiritual elevation is presented in Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 10, chapter 14, uh, 8, verse 8. Those who see divine, benevolent intervention in whatever happens to them who see everything to be under the personal control of the Supreme, and who accept even adversity to be for their betterment, are qualified to attain the highest spiritual realization.
Many authors have written about how diverse time are opportunities for learning. In his book, A Walk with Prudence, Jason Wolsey states the best education we can ever receive is from the University of Diversity.
Adversity.
Adversity, sorry. It's it's the only institute of learning that rewards us when we fail. Former British Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli remarked, "There is no education like adversity, but not about the time we get what we want. In good time, fewer people ask why me. Neither do they ask what is the lesson." But those who ask this question both in the good time and the bad get steady rewards. The renowned Bhakti yoga teacher Narada Muni instructs spiritual seeker to learn to see loss and gain as two sides of the same karmic coin. Loss comes of its own accord, he points out. So too does gain. No one seeks out misery, but it's fine as nonetheless. If you study the matter carefully, you will see that even when we do not exert ourselves, we get material happiness. It comes to us in due course of time, just as the misery does.
We learn from the Vedas that both happiness and misery come to us by the force of karma, the reactions of our previous activities. Some people work in jobs but never seems to get ahead financially. Others don't work at all but have abundant wealth. Our material destiny finds us as handily as a calf finds its mother amidst a herd of cows.
Problems are gifts. Like first slavery in the world problem, pro means forward, and belly comes from an ancient word meaning to throw. So problems are those things that are thrown in front of us, usually when we are least expecting them, to impede us from getting something done. If we take problems as opportunities to learn, we can grow. When problems come and we ask what is the lesson, we get the courage to work through them. Each of us has the power to solve problem, and that power is activated by asking what is the lesson.
The Bhagavatam tells the story of Bharat, a king who left his family and kingdom to meditate in forest so that he could attain spiritual knowledge. After making great progress, one day Bharat was distracted by a deer who had prematurely delivered her fawn while attempting to escape a lion. The deer died, but the fawn lived.
Artha saw the orphan fawn and took it as its own. He fed and cared for it, and became attached to it. And as he gave the deer more and more attention, his meditation practice began to wane. The king gradually stopped his spiritual practices altogether.
At the end of his life, the king was so attached to the deer that when he died, it was the sole focus of his attention. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that what we are most absorbed in thinking of at the time of death determines the body we will get in the next life. His mind absorbed in the deer at the time of the death. Bharata took his next birth as a deer. Even as a deer, however, he could remember his previous life's spiritual practices and he continued them as the best he could. So when he died and left his dear body behind, he was born as Jadabharata, a human in the family of an educated, spiritually enriched father, and he understood how easily one can be drawn away from spiritual practice.
As Jad Bharat, he pretended to be intellectually disabled just to avoid the divergence of social intercourse, which might again sidetrack him from his spiritual goal. He even distanced himself from his own family. When his father tried to instruct him in basic matters, Jadabharat behaved like a fool and just did the opposite of what he was told. When his father passed away, Jadabharat left home and wandered the earth. Now he could fully absorb his mind in the supreme, and ultimately, at the end of that life, he attained spiritual perfection original goal he had pursued as King Bharat. His setbacks and problems had not dissuaded him from his spiritual practices. Rather, they had made him even more determined. And just as he had used his setbacks to become spiritually determined, we may follow suit.
Frustration, the door to insight. Although we don't always think of it in this way, frustration, the feeling of being upset or annoyed, especially when we can't change or achieve something, is a very powerful energy that can help us to introspect. The prime cause of frustration is a feeling of losing control. When we have thoughts of how things should be when they don't go our way, we might feel anger or lack of self-esteem. However, if we know how to utilize our frustration, it cannot only help us achieve more, but through introspection can also serve as a doorway to personal growth.
To open that door, we must be mindful of frustration when it arises, observing it as energy merely passing through. The more we observe it as such, the more we become aware that it is separate from us. Srimad Bhagavatam 2235 provides a philosophical context. The spiritual quality of the seer is manifest in our dissatisfaction with limited state of materially conditioned existence. That is the difference between spirit and matter. As conscious spiritual entities, we are the ones who see a wall, a pencil, or football cannot see. They are made of dead matter. We, on the other hand, are conscious spiritual entities, and therefore we can see. And we can specifically notice that we are not satisfied with the limited state of matter. Matter disintegrates, we don't. Matter is dead, we are alive.
When we become aware that we are frustrated, we can note why. Matter and spirit are not just at odds with one another, they are polar opposites. When we become aware of this fact, we can manage our expectations. Material happiness is an oxymoron. As the idiom goes, you can't get blood from a stone, neither can we get happiness from matter. Such awareness helps us apply a principle taught by Stephen Covey about our circle of influence and our circle of concern. Our circle of influence consists of those things in our lives that we can influence or change. Then there is a circle of concern. It is much larger. Trying to adjust matters beyond our circle of influence requires a lot of energy, clutters the mind, and closes the door to insight. Frustration is like an unsolved puzzle. When we address it by proceeding methodically but dispassionately, staying within our circle of influence, the pieces will begin to fall into place.
Failure is the pillar of success. Spiritual practice isn't inaction. Neither is a spiritual practitioner immune from challenges and difficulties. Anyone who has, for any reason, taken to a worthy practice knows that there are always challenges and complexities. To cope up with them, it's important to have a long term, holistic, perspective. Srila Prabhupada used to say that there are accidents even on a royal road. So-called failure, he wrote, and may not be determinant. They may be the pillar of success. Whenever I remember this, I feel both relief and a sense of determination to succeed. I hope you feel the same way.
Tim Ferriss, in his book Tribe of Mentors, lists responses by his mentors when asked, how has a failure or apparent failure set you up for success later in life? Do you have a favorite failure? One response was from Leo Babauta, the founder of Zen Habits, a website with 2 million readers dedicated to finding simplicity and mindfulness amidst daily chaos. In 2005, I was stuck deeply in debt, overweight, addicted to junk food, no time for my family, couldn't stick to an exercise plan. I felt like an absolute failure, but this led to me researching habits and how to change them. And I put my entire being into making one single change and then another. It led to my entire life changing and to me helping others to change habits. It felt horrible, but it was one of the most incredible lessons of my life. The first change I made was quitting smoking, which turned out to be one of the hardest changes I have made. And I do not recommend starting with it, but I put everything I had into it and I learned a lot about changing habits. The next change was adding running as a way to cope with the stress after I quit smoking and to start getting healthier. After that, I became vegetarian and started meditating.
Best-selling author Maynard and ESPY award-winning mixed martial arts athlete known as the first quadruple Epitor to teach the summits of Mount Kilimanjaro and Mount Aka- Aconcagua without the aid of prosthetics, reflected on his failure.
It's almost more difficult to think of a time when an apparent failure didn't set me up for later success. Failure is inextricably connected to any major success I have ever had. My favorite failure was my earliest. My grandma, Betty, had this dark green jar. She used to ask me to get sugar out of, except the catch was as an amputee. I used both arms to grip things, and I could only fit one arm inside the jar. I did sit there for hours, repeatedly failing to balance the scoop on my one arm. I did get it right to the edge, then lose it. After 50 more tries, I did get it back near the top before I did lose it again. Eventually, and sometimes to my surprise, I did succeed. It not only helped me with my dexterity and focus, but it also helped build my will. The best way I can describe the feeling is a Finnish word, shishu. The mental strength of continuing to try even after you feel you have reached the limit of your abilities. I don't think failure is sometimes part of the process. It always is. When you feel you can go on, know that you are just getting started.
The Phoenix lost parents and Rich Brad's best-selling author Janet Fitch in her novel White Oleander. I can relate to the image of the phoenix, which cynically expires in the flame, but then is reborn from the ashes. German philosopher George Goro died to live. When our false senses of ourselves die, when our expectations break cease, we may find in the indestructible sense of purpose and determination that we miss when it all seems to be going well.
There is the seed of success in failure. Water that seed is to ask, what is the lesson?
Nice. Thank you so much for reading. All right, any questions, any reflections, anything that comes to your mind?
University of Adversity.
University of Adversity, who wants to get admitted there? So what was so, yes, we all are. Thank you. So what was so special about the University of Adversity? What does the university do? Yeah. It's the only university that rewards you when you fail. Right? That's what it said. Okay, good. University of Adversity. What else?
Attitude.
Attitude. Yes, correct.
What kind of like attitude you have towards the problem or any situation, the dependence, the situation,
The
the solutions, what
to-
you are
to
going to
that.
get it. So instead of getting overwhelmed, then you should be always stable.
Right. So being overwhelmed was one of the things. What was another thing that he was talking by in relation to the kind of attitude that people can have when some adversity hits them?
Instead of saying why me, what is the lesson?
Why me? And what was the word he was using for this? Why me? Kind victim mentality, right? So we have to move away from victim mentality and going back to what can I learn from there? Okay, good. And he also mentioned that it is the tendency of our mind to get into the victim mentality. So how do we overcome that with the help of our scriptures when adversities hit us? How do you think scriptures will explain adversities in our lives? So that we move away from the victim.
Intervention.
You will say it's a divine intervention. And why is it a divine intervention? Why will we say that it's a divine intervention?
In a way, it is protecting me.
In a way, it's protecting me. But why does it happen in the first place?
Because of my
हाँ
karma.
हाँ इसको बंद कर दो मेरे को आंखों में मुश्किल हो रही
I'm being one focus.
Yes, so why does it happen in the first place? Why do adversities come into our lives?
So to remind us that this is not a permanent thing.
To remind us that it's not a permanent thing. But then why do some people get reminders and some people don't seem to get reminders? So philosophy
Because of my karma and my
because of your karmic reactions, right? So once you understand that philosophically, that adversity is coming into your life because of karmic reactions, that is the thing that will make you let go of the victim mentality. Otherwise, it's like everybody is to blame for my situation, right? But the reason I'm getting that situation is my karmas, right? It's the kind of body, like in 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when Arjun asks that, what is karma? And he says that which leads to the development of a body, a material body, is called karma, which is a very profound definition of karma, because according to the karmic reactions, to karma you do, you'll get reactions, you'll get a suitable body to enjoy or to suffer the results of the reaction of the karma. Okay, good. Very good. So you talked about victim mentality. And about attitude, there was also one he quoted one person, right, who was a victim of the Nazis, and his whole family was killed. And what did he say? That there is so a person can take away everything, but his wife was taken away, children were killed, his wealth was gone, everything was gone. But he said that there is one thing that cannot be taken away from you, and your attitude. Your attitude. Even you get the worst. In fact, I remember Nelson Mandela used to be in jail. And then when he came out of the jail, he was interviewed. And so as part of the interview, what he said was that as I was coming out of the jail, I just looked back and I said, I forgive all of you. Because if you hold on to that resentment, right, then he would have suffered the whole life that he had. So it's very important to let go of that. Okay, good. So we talked about that.
I think there was also one about that Maharaj who was.
So do you use a microphone because there are people online?
One of the examples was about the Maharaj who was in a terminal phase and he had such a wonderful attitude. That,
Yes.
despite being in such a very painful situation, whose health was Krishna, whatever he being. Bhakti Tirtha, the way he took it was really inspiring.
That's great. And also in that narration it says like when we see these people, and I saw that in Hansapriya Mataji's mother also. She died a few years ago, right? And she had cancer which had spread to the whole body. And so the doctors had given up, so they sent her home. And of course, there were people who were coming, the nurses and all were coming to monitor her, but she was at home. And so she would be lying on a bed here, and here was an iPad on a stand, and she was watching all the programs from ISV. And at regular intervals, as she would have normally done, she was praying to Lord Narasimha. She would, constantly chanting, constantly praying. And I was just amazed to see how anybody who is suffering from cancer and is destined to die in a few days can be so blissful. She was very blissful. And all that she was kept on saying was that I want to go to Vrindavan, I want to cook for the Lord. And we were like one point in time, I was just feeling sorry that, I know that in this stage she won't be able to go to Vrindavan. But then later on, I checked myself that, I was thinking from my limited perspective that Vrindavan in India, but, a devotee of that caliber actually goes back to Vrindavan, Golok, and I'm pretty sure she's cooking something there. Yeah, so good point there. And the prayer that he gives, because it's all about our attitude. And he also mentions over there, I've just took notes and I'm reading from there. He also says that our attitude determines our behavior. Would you like to comment on that? Our attitude determines our behavior. So let's take both the situation. A person has got a victim mentality, so his attitude is that I'm a victim. What will be his behavior?
The story of Birbal where he captured him gives a nice example for this, because Birbal has such a cool attitude.
Right.
Like he was not worried and he was so blissful. But King was like worried and he came in a trouble because of his own attitude.
Right,
But
very good.
the end part was like he understood the lesson that was
And the reason he understood the lesson was that he was in an association of a person of the caliber of Birbal. So our associate is also very important. If we surround ourselves with people who will suggest every time anything happens, then and make you that it's victim, you're a victim of society, you're a victim of this and that. And the interesting story about that, the player, right, who didn't have a hand. And I was really amazed when I read what his father told him when he was not selected for the team. His father said that your teachers did not select you, not because that you have only one hand, but because you're not good at baseball. I mean, that is so inspiring, and also something that we can always keep at the back of the mind when things like that happen in our lives also, right? Did not get that promotion, like that, or do not get the accolades. That's the reason, not because this is. And then we start, right? When the boss says this didn't happen, we start with a very long list of why I did not do that instead of going, yeah. So, so the book also interestingly talked about the lessons that you should learn when there are adversities, but it also talks about the lessons you should learn when there is good things happening to you. Right?
Why me? Why me? You want to know.
Right, by me, yeah. And so there was a mention of classrooms, right? Different types of classrooms are also mentioned in this University of Adversity. Do you remember what? You can open the book. It's an open book. You can open nothing. Classroom of service, right? Good. Classroom of tolerance. She's in your role to do. Yeah, go. There was one more classroom.
classroom of sacrifice.
Sacrifice. Right? And he had emphasized that without sacrificing, you won't get anything, right? You won't get anything. Yeah.
Classroom of relationships.
Yeah. And so what is about relationship? What was talked about relationships?
Like relationships are like mirror or your
Yeah, your spouse is your mirror and your worst critic. Right? Okay. And so then also he quoted about Sukhdev Goswami, right? And this was so interesting. And that's the genius of the writer, that he said that Sukhdev Goswami, when Maharaj Parikshit asked that question, right? He's sentenced to die and he asked the question, what's the duty of a man about to die? And what did he say? What was the answer? What did Sukhdev Goswami tell Parikshit Maharaj? What is a person supposed to do at the time of death? Think about God, right? So Ante Narayan Smriti is a very famous phrase that we use, Ante Narayan Smriti. And the book says that these adversities which are there, when you get into the habit, and it's not easy to get into that habit, it will come through perseverance, it will come through practice and tolerance on our side as well, having the right attitude. That every time that there is an adversity in our life, if we just go and see what lesson has Krishna prepared for me to learn from this, you will get into the habit of thinking about Krishna, right? So in whichever way we ultimately end up losing our body, for example, again, Hansa-Priya Bharatiji's mother, she was leaving her body in a very different and a painful way, but her attitude, she was thinking about God. So if you're thinking about God in pain and in happiness, what do you think you'll think about when you're dying? Right? You'll think about God. So Ante Narayan Smriti, which is the duty of a man to do, will be possible only when you are thinking about Krishna and handling these adversities in that kind of a way. Yeah. And then also, there was one thing which was mentioned from the Srimad Bhagavatam, where Krishna is giving instructions to Uddhava. And he was saying that you have to just look around you. And there's a very nice passage in Srimad Bhagavatam where they talk about how you can learn things not only from, like, a teacher, you go get a guru, or go to university and you learn lessons there. You can also get lessons by just observing the nature. But for example, there was a couple of incidents that I mentioned in that story, and it says that when there's a river that is flowing, and suddenly by a mountain, and things move in the mountain. Sometimes the big boulders from the mountains will come and drop into the river. So the water which is there in the river, it doesn't complain. Say, I'm a victim. How can I move now? My job was to move. I cannot move and all that. And instead of that, what it does is that it changes the path, right? It will just go around the obstacles and continue its path like that, right? There's also the story of a Kurari bird and hawk and a Kurari bird, where there's a small bird. The Kurari is a small bird, and the Kurari found a mouse. And so it had the mouse on its beak, and it was just, flying and was going to perch on a tree and then enjoy. And then suddenly a big hawk saw the Kurari bird, and the hawks are hawks, they'll snatch food. And so the hawk goes after the Kurari, and Kurari was giving a fight. But at one point, the Kurari knew that, the hawk is going to kill me so it just dropped the meat piece and it flew away. And then of course the hawk was after the meat, so the hawk let go of the Kurari and then pursuing the Kurari, and then went to where the meat had dropped and he had it. So it's also an important thing that we should know when in our lives when we should just give up and stop pursuing things like that, right? So that is there. And then of course you mentioned that there is, one thing which I like very much was just because things are out of control, don't think that they are out of control. This was really eye-opening for me. Like, we might be thinking, I wanted this to happen this way, and it's not happening this way. Things are out of control. Whether it's Krishna from the top, he's controlling everything, and he's making sure it doesn't happen, because he has a plan of his own for you, and he wants you to learn a lesson from that, right? So, yeah. And again, if you take the story of Akbar and Birbal, where Akbar had his finger cut, and Birbal was saying, "Don't lament about that." And so we lament a lot, right? Hi. So I had a, I had a office mate when I was in India. She would, like the knee is hurting or something like that. She would say, don't you feel very nice when you kind of lament and you say, like that. So you get a little bit of satisfaction. So, and then of course we grow. There are so many opportunities for us to lament. We lament for this, we lament for that.
We see that with kids every day.
Every day, yes, kids lament a lot. Yeah, but the funny thing is that even after we grow up, we don't stop. We don't lament. We don't lament more than kids. Exactly. Yeah. Mhm. So then in the book it's also mentioned that, Akbar was lamenting for this and he lamented for that, and Krishna actually tells Arjuna even bigger thing, right? don't lament for your relatives. Don't lament that they are going to be killed. That was very, very powerful, right? So height of lamentation that he said there. Yeah, and then also, yeah, this point when we were talking about victimhood, right? So about victimhood, the book also mentioned that if you get into the mindset of being a victim, then your life actually is controlled by others. Because others are doing things to you, right? Because of others, this is happening, that is happening. But when you let go of the victim mentality, then you take control of your life and then you learn how to face the adversities which are there in life. And then, of course, one is that you get the adversities and you are asking what is the question, what is the question, what is the lesson, what's the lesson I want to learn. And then Brahma in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is mentioned here in this book also, talks about the famous verse Tattenu Kampam Susamishamanam Punjanam Evasma Kitam Vipakam Hidvak Vapubhed Vidadan Namaste Jiveta Yomukti Pade Sadhayabhak. So what it says is that when misfortunes befall, and the book also mentioned that Narad Muni says that just as misfortunes come to you, good things will also come to you on their own, right? But misfortunes have a tendency, they will find you wherever you are, and your karma also follows you. You know, you can leave continents, you can leave planets, but the karma follows you like that, right? So, so Brahma says that those who are devotees of the Lord, so they say when the miseries come, I mean, we are teaching, we are lesser mortals than pure devotees of the Lord. We are just saying, okay, what's the lesson for me, Krishna? Let me learn the lesson and let me learn the lesson quickly so that this goes away. But others, the higher and exalted devotee, they will say, Tate Anukampa, this is your mercy on me. Tate Anukampa. And actually, I deserve worse things, something worse than what I'm going through right now. For example, you buy a brand new car and you, go to a shop and you park it, and when you come back, somebody pulled the car wrong way and now your new car has got a scratch on, all along the side of it. So how you react to that? There can be so many ways you can react to that, right? But the Tattenu Kampam verse a person following that will say that the car was destined to get scratched. Now there are so many ways it could have gotten scratched. I could have been driving it on the freeway and somebody could have um, sideswiped me and I could have gotten the scratch there with its own consequences, right? But then luckily, because God is in control of my life, He has actually, so it says that I actually deserve worse. And because I'm your devotee, Krishna, you are reducing the sentence for me. And then continues to glorify. So we'll take all these opportunities in life. And why I'm saying opportunities is because whenever bad things happen in their life, they will take that opportunity and continue to glorify Lord. That's what He's glorifying, that I deserve worse, but you are so merciful like that. So again, it's not just learning the lesson, it's also going up and beyond that. What was it about frustration? There was a section on frustration also, right?
Just because things are out of control,
Yeah, they are not, they're out of control. True. So one of the things he was also saying was that problems are gifts.
Yeah.
We have to be very bold to say, okay, I'm going to take it as a gift, right? And that requires practice, that requires association of devotees, that requires reading scriptures, that requires chanting, that requires eating and honoring the sadham, which will be served momentarily. No, let me know when I need to stop. So one of the things that they said was that when you get frustrated, frustration is actually a situation that will give you insights about this material world. In 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita again, this world is defined as Dukhalaya Ashashvatam. Right? Dukhalaya means it's a place of misery. So when things are going good, it's like, no, I don't think it's a place of misery. But then when the miseries come, that's when you get the insight. And then the book says there's a very nice passage over there. It mentioned that the fact that you are being frustrated in this material world is actually telling you that you are a spirit and you have nothing to do with material world. But because we are trying to find happiness is something which is alien to me, I'm a spirit, I'm trying to find something which is dead. I will be frustrated. So we have to just understand that trying to do anything in the material world, you will get frustrated here or there. And somebody might just say that, why will I get frustrated if I worked hard for something, I got a new job or I got promoted, I became vice president of a company. Why will I be frustrated? It's cause for me to be happy. And yes, you're right, you're caused to be happy. But then once you step into the position of a vice president, another set of frustrations will start. Because this is the Dukhalyam, this is Ashashvatam. So even happiness is temporary. Now, so basically, this chapter is telling us that look at reversals in life and see that how you can learn a lesson from them. So, what are some of the stories? Let's just recount some of the stories from Bhagavatam where there were reversals in people's life, and they turned them around and became successful. Srimad Bhagavatam. Parikshit Maharaj, very good. And what was the reversal in his life?
Instead of thinking
Would use the microphone. Get the microphone. Where can you see?
so instead of thinking about other things when he got a curse, he went in the shelter, right? And he heard the Bhagavatam to get liberated. So, and he gave example for all of us what we should do at the end of our life rather than wasting our time. He didn't think about the kingdom, money, anything. He was just dedicated towards the God.
Right. And yes. So did he have the victim attitude, mentality? No. He could have just said that, I was Kshatriya, I was a Brahmin because he was powerful, so he cursed me. Like that's number one. Second was he also he knew where to invest his energies. He was a king and he was a devotee of the Lord as well. He was powerful enough to counter curse. But he did not do that as well. Right. And then he just went to the right place. He went to the sages and started asking and gave up everything. What use is that trying to cling to things when you have only 7 days left to? And I've seen that, sometimes on televisions or, articles, etc. They'll ask the question, so if you are given 5 days to live, where will you go? They start making a list. I need to go to Hawaii, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to get married, like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, another thing comes in my mind, like we are not powerful as Parikshit Maharaj. So we need so many years dedicate towards the Lord, and then also we don't know.
But the good thing is that we have started, right? And maybe started from previous births as well to be able to do this. And we have taken that road and or we have boarded the flight, and wherever the flight is going, we will go. Right now, it might be a mini stop flight or it might be a direct flight. We don't know. The Bhagavatam talks about Maharaj Khadbanga, and he was a very powerful warrior, and he was actually called by the demigods because demigods are always attacked by the asuras. So the demigods were feeling a little insecure, so they asked him to go there and organize and be the Senapati. So he helped the demigods overcome and defeat the asuras. So Indra, or who I'm forgetting, was very happy with that. Was it Indra? Was very happy with him, and he said, tell me, what do you want? He said, tell me when I'm going to die. Then he says about 3 minutes. But then that's happening in the heavenly planets, with the time 3 minutes of their time is more. So then he immediately comes down to the mortal planet where he belongs, and he focuses, I think, for 6 months or something like that. He focuses his attention on Krishna, and in that period of time only he went back to Godhead. So don't think that we don't have, Florida had 7 days, but people have done it in, few days as well.
Like I was involved in an accident where I was stopped on a red light, and I can see the car is coming towards me, and I can see that the speed like above 100 it was coming very fast toward me. I had a big truck behind me. I had an ongoing traffic on the side of me. And the only thought at that time I had in my mind, I never take that route any day because my son was sick, so I wanted to reach home early. So I went that way, and the car hit me, and when he hit me, my leg got more stronger on the brake. So my car went in ongoing traffic. My all airbags were popped out. Nothing happened to me, but I was thinking at that time because I was not Krishna conscious. I was not in this practice. I was not doing Harinam, Sankirtan or anything. So the only thought I had at that time was, when will I reach home? When will I see my son? So now I believe, like, without practice, I think it's so impossible to remember God at the end of your life.
Yes. Yes.
You have to like practice every second.
Yeah. There's a story of a man who was a businessman, very miserly and a dishonest businessman. And he knew this Ante Narayan Smriti. So he had 4 sons and he gave them names of the Lord. Like one was Krishna, Ram, Balram, like that, right? And then, so when he became old, he became sick and he was lying down in his bed. But his sons were virtuous. He was, though he was not. And so all the 4 sons were by their father's deathbed. So he was like, Ram kahan hai? Main Pitaji yahan hu. Where is Shyam? I'm here, like that. So then he found that all the 4 of them were on his bedside. So he said, all 4 of you are on the bedside. Then who's in the shop? The thieves are going to come there. Chor, chor, chor. And he died. So it's whatever you are thinking throughout your life is what you think at the time of death. Yeah, and small things like when I first came to ISKCON, I'm impressed by the ladies working in the kitchen. Like I grew up that if something falls from your hand, you will say ouch or oops or something like that, right? And they would just say, oh Krishna, oh Krishna. So they are in this habit of repeating names. Damodar Vanchidari Prabhu, if there's a loud bang, like something like kids are making the loud bang, then he would say Jai Jagannath, like that. He was famous for saying Jai Jagannath. And so when you are in that habit, when a car comes and hits you, like it hit you, Jai Jagannath will come from our mouth. So these are habits that we form throughout our lives, so that Ante Narayan Smriti can happen. And that's what he had asked. The question was also asked, very important. 2 questions that he had asked. It was the duty of the man at the time of death, and then what should he do during their life. And so Ante Narayan Smriti was what to do at the time of death. And Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha. You listen to Shrota, listen to Krishna Katha, and also speak the glories of the Lord. Like that. So yeah, that's the practice we're supposed to do. Yeah. So that was one good example, of course. Who else? Dhruv Maharaj, yes. Dhruv Maharaj story is there. Yeah. Who else? Who else had a crisis? Who else was enjoying a lot and suddenly crisis hit him? Gajendra, right? Bharat Maharaj, yeah. For Bharat Maharaj, it was gradual. Yeah, gradually being weaned away. But for Gajendra, it was instant. Yeah. And if that had not happened, he was happily enjoying with his family in the waters, right? But then finally he gets liberated because of that. Yeah. So one of the parting things that I would leave here is that there's a lot more, but I know we are short of time. Is that when we get in this habit of saying, what is the lesson? It doesn't mean that the hurt is going to go away. You will still be suffering, but because of the new attitude that you're going there, you will not be getting more entangled into that in a bad way. And as Vaishnav Prabhu was saying a couple of weeks ago, he said that every incident in your life, which will be anything that you do also is also an incident. Every incident in your life is actually the beginning of a real consequence. Everything that you do is the beginning of a consequence that's going to come back to you. So we need to keep that in mind, when adversities hit us. But at this point in time, something good is going to happen. We're going to help the southern. Any last minute question that you think?
Mataji, there was something about fear. And even in your yesterday's lecture, you were talking about fear. So
yes, there was a whole list of qualities from Bhagavad Gita that were listed, right? And the book was saying that if you get into the habit of, if you get in the habit of asking this question, what is the lesson learned, rather than being a victim, all those qualities will become manifest in you, right? For example, if something wrong is happening to me, like for example, I get laid off. What is the fear that I will have if I'm laid off from job?
What next? Which role?
What next? Which role? Okay. Even before that, what are the things that I will play?
Why me?
Why me? Okay.
What will
Yeah.
happen, like salary?
Salary, the financial hit, right? What happens to the mortgage? What happens to this, whatever that? Do you think fear will come?
Yes.
Right? But on the other hand, if you change the focus, and you say, okay, now I'm trying to see what is the lesson in this, you'll go back and say, oh, why was I laid off? Why was it the chosen few who were laid off? That's a lesson to learn, right? How to make myself valuable to the company that they never lay you off, right? Will the pain go away? No, the pain will not go away. But because of this attitude that you have on asking what's a lesson, you'll be guaranteed that, if you follow that lesson that you learn, you'll be more safe in the next company. Like that. So then the fear will go away, right?
How did you read my mind? That's a question going on in my head from last month.
That's a perpetual question for me.
No, because of the current situation in our company.
I know. But Krishna will take care. NVIDIA Zindabad.
No, today while reading this chapter, I kind of got an answer. Instead of if it happens, because it seems next week we are going to get our results. And if it happens to me, instead of thinking that why me, I think I know the answer now. That Krishna is showing me the path, that I'm stuck in this job from so many years. I'm not putting enough effort to enhance my skills and reskill myself. So I'll get an opportunity to make up the time to learn something new and then get something better.
Something better. Sometimes companies are better and we get so used to even the bad treatment from a company, we don't want to live. And that's what happens to us in the material world. It is full of miseries, but we get used to it. And we don't want to leave this material world. But Krishna comes and says, "Allah, come on now, you are laid off."
I just got laid off last week. Yeah.
But
But
being laid off,
other doors opens when
it
one
opens.
closes,
One
right?
closes, other doors open.
I was also thinking to resign, and then I couldn't take a decision, so someone else has to take a decision. The night before I was talking to Mataji, like I just want to, if I wish I can just leave the job and do this, and then ki kripa ho gayi yaar. Next morning, night
How you can enjoy your summer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then Parul, you have something more? Go ahead.
Yeah, Mataji, there was some point somewhere, I'm not able to find it.
Tell me.
It was about to detach from the material happiness, material. So how can Mataji living in this world, working for all the material things and all, how can we achieve that? How do we?
Yeah, so there are several things that you can do. One is to philosophically understand, right? That and remind ourselves over and over again that everything belongs to Krishna. Nothing belongs to me. So that way, some of those lower attachments can go away. For example, and they gave the example of a car, right? You buy a brand new car and you suddenly hear the screech, right? I am my car, right? That's my car. So one of the ways is to constantly remind yourself that the car doesn't belong to me. Actually, I know of a person who would, like, if they buy a book, and we normally used to put a name in the book, especially in the temple. If everybody has this book, then you put your name there. Otherwise, how will you know the book? Instead of writing his name there, he would write, "This book is under the care of," and then put his name there. So it's a constant reminder that nothing is with me. Everything, including, now we can extrapolate that, including our children, to whom we are so attached always, right? Are entities that have been put under our care by Krishna. And it's a very high thinking and very difficult to achieve because we have attachments there. To say that, my child belongs to Krishna. Otherwise, when a child wants to take sannyas, why do the parents lament? Right? A parent would just say, okay, fine, yeah, you're going after God, very good, take sannyas. But you don't do that, right? So those attachments are there. So one thing is that, right? Chanting also helps you get rid of attachments. Being in the association of devotees and exalted devotees will also get that into you. Reading the scriptures, knowing about the world as to what I was just thinking. There was this there was a story of liquid beauty. There was this man, a married man, and he started going and visiting a prostitute. He was very much enamored of her, and she was very, very beautiful. And so he started going there. He was about to leave the wife, and the wife was a very sweet and a very perfect, gentle lady. So she goes to the prostitute and she begs and says that, please don't spoil my family, my life. So the prostitute understood. So when this man, she said, okay, I'll take care of that. So when this man comes to meet her, and then he's like, when will I meet you again? So he said, okay, come back after 2 weeks, we'll meet again. So during those 2 weeks, so he's waiting very, desperately to meet. So after 2 weeks, he goes to the place and knocks the door, and a lady, opens. And so he says, so where is, give her a name, some name. Anamika. He says, where is Anamika? So she says, I am Anamika. She said, no, you cannot be Anamika. Anamika is so beautiful. So she says, okay, let's go to the next room. So in the next room he goes, and then there are big vats, bade kalash like that covered. And what is inside those vats? There is puke, there is vomit, there is stool from loose motions. So what she was doing all along for those 14 days was she was purging her whole body. All the liquids went away, so she shriveled up. She became looking like an old woman. And then she tells him that this is what I did. And she says that, the beauty, she says, oh, all the water went away, so that's why you shriveled up. She says, yeah, the beauty that you are after is over there in those vats. And sometimes I also think that, especially the doctors, they understand the body in and out. How can you even be attached to that body when you know there is mucus and pus and blood and bacteria and all that kind of stuff, right? So also understanding things philosophically and also scientifically sometimes will help you be detached. And also knowing that every attachment that you have makes it difficult to leave the world. For me, that itself is a good inspiration not to get unusually attached.
But again, Mataji, there was this example like when you think it's your car got hit, but when you found out it's not your car, you're so relieved. So
He's talking about attachment. Yeah,
it's like
yeah. But then there was a very nice line also that was added there. And he said, and you feel sorry for the neighbor.
Yeah.
Which doesn't happen normally, right? Para dukha sukhi. Acha uski gaadi ko laga na maza aa gaya. People think like that also. Uski gaadi meri gaadi se achhi thi, achha hua tool gayi. That's
you
what
feel
generally
sorry,
we do.
but you don't feel sad.
Yeah, but then a Mahatma will feel sad. A Mahatma feels sad for everybody. Para dukha dukhi. They feel sad for other people's ego. Why do you think the sages of Naimisharanya are sad there for 1,000 years with suit all over the body trying to do the yoga? Why are they doing it? They do it for others. So those are exalted beings, and we are so lucky and fortunate that we are able to associate with exalted beings, right? Srila Prabhupada. And we are still associating with him through his books, through his disciples' books. Right? And then those qualities will come to us from association.
In this situation, Like the normal person, he feels sad because first he felt that this was my car. So he felt that sadness. Now then he saw that the other person got it. He relieved, but still he could feel. So that is empathy, I think.
Yes.
So empathy is the first step towards
Yes.
spirituality.
Yes. And should be sustained throughout your progress in spirituality. You should not give up empathy because not everybody will be at the same level of devotional attachment, devotional progress as you are. And others will still be suffering and others will still be attached to the kids. And you can't come and tell them that, like if a mother is lamenting and the child is dead, you don't go and tell them that, he was not the body, he was the soul. Right? Empathy means that you will still console her and try to wipe her tears and things like that. So, because you are paradukha dukhi, you are happy because that person, although ignorant, is unhappy. And that's what the wise people want to do. They want to remove this ignorance from everybody's life so that they are genuinely happy.
Mataji, one more reflection while reading this book. Like first question is what is our purpose, the goal? And the third question when we are here. So I was thinking that the first question has to be very clear to us. That our goal has to be clear. And then only we can change our perspective towards everything.
Very good.
Yes,
Yes, very
right.
good. And so that's how the questions are sequenced in the book. You know, how they are building this. Yeah. Very nice, very nice. Exactly. Yeah, I love it. Anything else? Who's going to sing Prashadam prayers then?
Narasimha, she loves Narasimha.
Oh, nursing
Can you call me?
fantastic. Yeah. I'm just being mindful to do Ekadashi, so I just didn't want to hog too much of time.
Till she comes for this, I was thinking like how we have to practice this mindset of like victimhood, not just major events in our life, but every day throughout the day, we can practice it. Like you are going to office, because some interactions will happen every time, every second. Your ego is hurt. Things are happening. So we can work on that.
What's the lesson? What's the lesson?
What's the lesson? Where I am wrong. And that's take to the first question. What is the purpose of my life? If that is clear, then I will work on me. Otherwise, I will take lesson, but again, I'll keep myself in the center and keep myself in the positive side and take lesson according to that.
Right. And there was such a nice example that was given. Thank you for bringing this point up. Such a nice example that was given of kids. Right? Kids like to be the center. I mean, I was very surprised. My daughter was only 3 months old. Not even 3. She must be 2 or 2.5. And I was holding her in my lap. I'm sitting and my family were around me. And so normally when she was small, she was born premature and all that. I used to give a lot of attention to her. And then suddenly, the conversation drifted and I started talking to my mom and sisters and all that, and the conversation was still here. And then suddenly, after she started crying like nobody's business. Suddenly, very sweet laugh, and then looked at her and said, kya hua, kya hua? Silent. It was like not being the center of it, right? Such a small child.
Yeah.
One more thing that they said was, which I also want to emphasize again, and we should keep in mind, is circle of influence. You mentioned Stephen Covey, right? So circle of influence. There's going to be a layoff. Is it in your hand to change? Then don't think about it. Don't think about things which are outside of your circle of influence, because then you will get worried. If things are in your circle of influence, then also you should not worry, because you'll be able to fix it. It's in your circle of influence. If it's outside of your circle of influence, don't worry about it, because you can't fix it like that. So that's one way also to handle these kind of things that are coming. Yeah. Kya hoga, kya hoga, kya hoga? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Is she going to sing her single prayer? No. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
So, Mataji, what is the judgment of what is the lesson? The goal is the judgment, or what is right or wrong when we take the lesson away?
When we take the lesson as well, it will lead to improvement, and it will lead to, like, there were 15, 16 qualities, right, which are essential for devotional service. We develop these qualities, like how Paru brought up the fearlessness, right? And so once you get over these small fears that are there in life, then we overcome the biggest fear. And what is the biggest fear? Death. In America, what is the biggest fear? Public speaking. Yeah, they did a survey, yeah. And it was public speaking, because they don't want to talk about that. Here they don't talk about that, yeah. Okay. Let's do the prayers to Narasimha-dev. Okay. I am disconnected, right? Yeah. Thank you so much, dear devotees, for joining us here on Facebook and YouTube.